So now with the first cleat mounted, I could go ahead and rest the shelving board on top of the first cleat, put a level on it, and mark the level location for this side. And one of the things I want to show here is the reason why I build these cleats instead of building them on the wall is if you look here, a lot of times joints aren't exactly 90 degrees, and you can see I've got some wobbleness here. So if I tried to build this on the wall, it'd be very difficult to get a nice clean edge. So building it first, give me that clean 90, and what I can do is position this with shims and whatnot to get it to sit just right. So to mount this one, I'm gonna do it just like I did on the other side. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna transfer my line here to the wall, and I'm just gonna do that using a level. And I'm not too worried about drawing on the wall here because this shelf's gonna cover it up. So now I can go ahead and get rid of this, and I can mount the cleat. Okay, to mount the cleat, in this case, I'm going to use a shim here. When I position the cleat, I want to make sure it's level. I'm going to go ahead and pre-drill. And then once that's in there, I'm going to take my trim nail, tap it into place. I'm going to put another nail in here, but before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and shim out this gap right here. And 2 shims just like that. And then just want to double check for level. Okay, so now that it's perfectly level, I'm gonna go ahead and put my other screw nail in. So basically to hold this shelf up, I need blocks like this on just about, on every side of the window here. But I want to go a little bit further than that, and instead of just making a block here, I want to make a wraparound trim piece just to kind of make it look a little bit nicer. So the way I'm going to do that is similar to the way I made the other cleats, but it's a little bit trickier here because we got to get an accurate wraparound. To start with that, I'm going to take a piece of 1x4 that is long enough to wrap around, and I'm going to line it up with my lines, just making sure I've got plenty overhang on each side to meet this distance. And I'm going to line it up perfectly with those lines, and I'm going to draw a line down here and then a line here, and then that's where I can cut my miters and then use these pieces to build the corners, again similar to how we did here. So to do the moldings around the column sections, I got to be a little bit more precise than before, and that first middle section has to be just right. So I'm going to go ahead and cut the miters and check my fitting, make sure that first piece is good. Then I can go ahead, put the corners on like before, and then cut everything into place. So now that I got this main piece cut to the right size, basically I can build out the corners just like I did for the other cleats. I'm gonna go ahead and attach them, use some glue, tack in a few nails, do that for both sides. Then I can take the whole piece to the router table, route the edge to soften it over, and then take the whole piece and cut the corners to the exact dimensions I need, and then install it into place. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to transfer those marks I just made, and I'm going to go ahead and trace out the cutout openings I need to make for the wall space. And instead of cutting the full space right now, I'm going to take a little bit off the measurement I took from the window to where the wall ended. Then I'm going to place the shelf in, and then I'm going to scribe to make an exact fit and cut the last little finesse cuts. Now it was time to do the initial fit with the freshly cut shelf. And it was at this point I realized I had two major issues. One is I made a big mistake. When I went to transfer my marks to the shelf or the cutouts that need to be made, I actually had the shelf positioned the wrong way. That means the way I cut out these holes was backwards. Now in this case, the windows are pretty close, so I can actually kind of make it fit. My second problem is I knew when I started this project, I was taking a gamble because I knew it would be very difficult to make one shelf fit tightly into these three openings. And the main reason for that being that the window openings, the corners, the walls of the window openings aren't perfectly 90 degrees in every window. So if I were to cut the shelf at the proper angles for each window, there'd be no way to physically fit the one whole shelf piece in there. So I knew I would have some spacing issues with my cuts. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to salvage my existing shelf, and I'm just going to go ahead and use a 1/4 ounce molding to hide the gaps. Now I can take my scribe and set it the distance between the window and the shelf and use it to mark my final cut line to ensure the shelf fits snugly. And for the hopefully final fit,